but yeah, so I'm really excited to talk to you because I don't know if you remember me. I met you in Chicago with Karen Just.
Hmm.
Like, so right, okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know, 2021 probably
Yeah.
or
Uh-huh.
something. Okay, because it was like super,
Yep.
super hot.
Yep.
And yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, very memorable. But I remember meeting you there and I had not heard of you at all. But then because I met you, I was like very aware. And then I was like, and Karen obviously told me that you like she ran with you and you were like pretty fast. And then I just was like, oh my God, like you're at this race and you're at this race and you're winning this and winning that. And I was like, who are you? Like what? Where did you come from? Like, what's your story? So
Yeah.
that's originally why I wanted to like talk to you.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I moved to Baltimore County in 2020. So I didn't even meet Karen till around that time. So I ran and still run with the Howard County Striders. Um, so and like I said, up until 2020, I hadn't been running up here. I mean, I ran races, but I don't know. Anyway, that might be
Yeah.
why you didn't see me around as much.
Okay, so that's interesting. Like Howard County, you guys have some fast women because like the French woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who wins
Yeah, Julia. She's amazing.
Julia. She's
Uh-huh.
amazing. She is part of the Howard County Striders, isn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've trained a lot together. We our racing team had like we meet for workouts twice a week pretty consistently. There's a group that meets, and
Okay.
then also every Saturday morning, and I still go down there Saturday morning. So there's actually a good group down there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well then, I mean, that's good because I was like, how I was trying at one point to put together a group of women to train together when I was like had my sights on like running like super fast. Like I don't really know where I am right now, but at one
Hmm.
point I was like, it would be so cool to figure out like who the women are and who we can run with. But even Howard County for me is like a little bit further out than where I would run.
Yeah,
So
and it's tough. Like the workouts during the week are 6 a.m. So it's a little tough when you live 30, 40 minutes and then have to get back for work. But Saturdays, because we have such a good group, and if you're running 2 hours plus, it's worth it for like a 30, 35-minute drive.
yeah. How did you
But
find
yeah,
them?
it's actually a very funny story. So, well, and I'm sure we'll get into more of my background, but I wasn't a runner growing up. And I started running on my own in college just to stay in shape, the normal story. And I was living in Columbia, but I was running by myself because I don't know, I didn't know
Yeah.
anything really. And I had a teacher reach out to me. She was a teacher in high school, and she was involved with the Howard County Striders. They have a bunch of different like training programs. But at the time, she was in charge of finding people to volunteer for the half and full marathon training program. And she reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, would you want to be a coach in this program?" And I was like, first of all, I don't know how to be a coach. I just run by myself. I don't know anything. Second of all, like, what are you talking about?" And she was like, you'll learn everything you need to know from your other coaches. We really just need someone who can run in our fastest group, like with our participants, because the way it works is you meet like weekly for workouts and you run with the people in the program. So she's like, "I really just need someone fast enough to run with the fastest group. You'll learn from there." And I was like, okay. And so I just did it. And I met all these people that are super involved with the Striders. And it would be funny, even the participants would like, you've probably heard of the Bagel Run every Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's been going on for years and years and years. People meet near the bagel bin and do these courses that are already laid out. And even the participants in the program were like, "Oh yeah, we're doing the reverse bagel route today." And I was like, "The what? Like, what are you talking about?" So I didn't know anything. But after that, I was in like people I met were like, "You should come out," and I was really shy about it. But then I did, and people like Julia and I mean, there's lots of others, Caroline Bauer, a lot of other
Mm.
people were so like welcoming and open, and they kind of like took me under their wing, Julia and Caroline especially. So
Oh, that's awesome. So, how did your teacher know that you were fast? Like, how did she? Because you were a swimmer, right? I know that. I know a little bit.
Yeah. I think because we were Facebook friends, she must have just seen like me post about training for my first marathon because I did do that on my own. Like I wasn't involved. I'm trying to think back, but yeah, I wasn't involved with any like groups at the time. I just wanted to do it. So I think she must have just seen me on Facebook and was like, "Let me ask her." And that's why. I mean, that's why when I got the message, I was like, "What?" But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so all right. So I got to go back a little bit. So you're a swimmer and then you're running to just kind of stay in shape. So when
Mhm.
does like in your mind you're like, I want to run a marathon? Because I feel like that's a leap, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Um, Yeah, so in college, I started running just to stay in shape. And I think I just realized like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. And when I was a swimmer, I did all the like endurance events. That was always my strength. And actually, we would do like dry lands. Like before swim practice, they'd have us do different. Like sometimes we did weights, but other times it would be running or like any other thing.
Okay.
And all my teammates would be like whining, like, "Oh, we have to run today." And I was like, "Sweet, like let's do this instead of swim." Like because like I was good at it and whatever. So yeah. Anyway, so I kind of already knew that maybe I had some natural ability, and then in college, like I said, I started running on my own, and I decided to run the Baltimore half marathon. I
Okay.
think a friend of mine wanted to do it. And I guess, a half marathon, it is kind of a jump, but I feel like some people that don't have a lot of experience kind of are like, I could do it. Um, so I did it, and I think I was just hooked. I'm trying to think how many more I did. I probably did a couple other half marathons. Um, my older sister kind of had the same trajectory where she was swimming and then turned into a runner, and she's a couple years older than me, so she had been running races. I actually think that first year I did the Baltimore half, she was in the festival. I don't know what she was doing, but um,
Uh-huh.
anyway, so I did like a couple halves, and I was like, well, I know marathon's something like really hard. I should try it.
Yeah, I had like kind of a similar thing. I remember being at the gym and just running on the treadmill, like running 6 miles, and like
Mhm.
I knew nothing about racing, but I was just doing it to like stay in shape or whatever. And my coworker was like next to me, he's like, "Did you just run 6 miles?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You could run a half." And I'm like, "Oh, like okay." But Baltimore was my first, right?
Mm.
So I ran the half, and then yeah, I was like, okay, that was okay. I could probably run like further than that, having no idea that like what double that would mean in terms of like running a
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
Um, and then I ran the Baltimore full, and my first time I basically like died because I don't think I knew nothing about training when I
And
first
that
trained.
and that course is not a good one to start on.
No, but I'm glad I did because
Yeah.
I had no idea that marathon courses got easier. Like that's the only one that I ran
Yeah.
for years. Cause after the
Yeah.
first one and I like, oh my God, I died. And I was like, all right, you gotta like figure this out. Like, what are you doing wrong or whatever? Like I used to not train with, not only did I not train with gel, like I didn't drink anything. Like I don't know
Hmm.
what I was doing, but
Hmm.
somehow I was, able to train, but just the marathon like crushed me, like that 26.2. But so I ran Baltimore for a while until like just I qualified for Boston one year, having no
Hmm.
idea what it was, which is such an I mean, you say that to people and it's so obnoxious, like, oh, you you accidentally qualified for Boston. But which also isn't an easy course, right? So
Hmm.
it wasn't until I ran Chicago that I was like, oh my God. Like I think I PR'd by like 10 minutes in Chicago because it was like such a different course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, do you still run Baltimore? Like, do you still, or are you like, nah?
I'm not tough enough. I have not.
It's hard.
I'll tell you, for the past several years, I've been chasing times.
Mhm.
I was chasing the Olympic qualifying time for the trials in 2020. I was chasing it again up until 2024. So I didn't give myself a lot of opportunities to run on courses that, I wasn't going to PR on.
Yeah.
I, the idea of running the hometown race is something that I would maybe do. And I am running New York City this year, which I'm excited about.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, I've been chasing a time for what feels like, I mean, it has been 6 years. So like a
Yeah.
different, in 2020 it was a time and then a different time. So I haven't, like I said, I just haven't done many challenging courses.
Yeah, I totally get that. Baltimore is not a PR course, but not just the hills, like the weather is like really
Hmm.
unpredictable. Um, and you did qualify for the Olympic trials, didn't you? And that was in 2020.
Hmm.
And then okay, and then after that the time dropped.
Hmm.
And so now you're going after the new time.
Well, I was, yeah. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
qualified well, it kind of was a wild ride up to that. It was kind of like a little bit similar to your experience, I think, with the way I improved very quickly and wasn't expecting it. So, I ran my first marathon in the 3:20s, I think, and then the next one like 3:05, and then, just like these big jumps. And my third or fourth marathon, my third one was Boston in 2018, which was an experience.
Oh,
That's the Des Linden
okay, yeah.
year. Uh huh.
Yep.
Uh, but then the next one was like a 2:52. Like the drops were so fast. And I think when I ran the 2:52, somebody was like, "Hey, you could qualify for the trials." And I was like, "No, absolutely not." And they were like, "It's 2:45. Like, you're not that far." And I was like, "That's a lot of minutes. I've already dropped." Like, I just didn't see myself as that kind of runner.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so then when I started training for the 2:45, I ran Richmond. I actually ran a 2:40. So I
Oh my
qualified by quite a
God.
bit. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was so excited. But yeah, so then the time it was 8 minutes faster. It was 8 minutes faster for 2024.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I chased that hard and fell a little bit short, and it was tough. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is such a huge jump, that 8 minute jump. But going back to, I mean, did you go from 252 to 240? Was that the jump?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. That had, like, how,
It
so God.
I think it was a December and then November. So it was almost like a full year. And
Yeah.
I don't think I did a marathon in between those. So yeah.
Do you like, what do you think changed with your training from the 252 to the 240? Like, do you know what you changed for that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that was around the time I joined. Well, I think it's when I started. I was on the racing team with the Howard County Striders, but actually, this is a good story. So I'm not coached; I'm self-coached. But Julia Roman Duval, like I said, she took me under her wing, and I think she was one of the ones who was like, "You." From the moment I met her, she's like, "You can qualify for Boston. You can do this. You can do that." Like she's always been, her and Caroline both. They've always been so supportive, and Julia is so talented and smart herself. So if she tells you that, I'm like, okay, okay. And she's like, "Hey, I can help you like write a plan," because I had no idea. Like I think before for the 2:52, I was definitely doing like the long runs and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't think that I was doing any other like workouts really, targeted. But yeah, she was like, "I can help you write a plan. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a track day. We're going to do a tempo day. We're going to do a long run day." She like gave me her plan and was like, you know, "Change it for your purposes." And I started showing up to those workouts and chasing her and the boys around. And yeah, it was definitely a lot of that stuff that helped me with the
Yeah.
big jump.
Yeah. So there I can see actually having a training plan is huge. Running with
Mm-hmm.
other people who are faster is huge as well. And then
Mm-hmm.
having somebody who sees your potential is also huge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so all those three things, I can totally see how that would get you such a big jump. I mean, those are three pretty significant changes for your training plan. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then, so going back, you're a swimmer, you're a runner. Do you ever do triathlons or anything like that, or just after you started running, you're like running? Is it?
So freshman year of college, I joined the triathlon team or club,
Okay.
because I was like, this will be fun. And I did one sprint triathlon, and biking is not my strong suit. That is something I think in the future that that'll be like my next big thing will be in like an Ironman. But I need to learn how to ride a bike better. Um, I'm just not even comfortable. Like I can ride one and I can balance, but I'm not super comfortable. And I didn't have a bike at all. And so I was going to borrow I can't remember, somebody's mountain bike. And somebody that was like obviously more experienced than me was like, you can't use a mountain bike. You have to use this road bike. Like, here, come try mine. It's like the night before the race. Come try mine. And I'm like, I look at the skinny tires, like the tiny, tiny skinny tires. And I'm like, oh no, I can't. I hopped on it and I was like, nope, I can't do this. So I did the triathlon. First one out of the swim, like, all right, this is great. And then I get on the mountain bike and people are just flying by me the whole time. And I'm like, oh man. And like the hills, yeah. And then finally made it to the bike and got to the run. It was a 5K. So, I mean, I passed people, but it was not enough time.
That bike.
Yeah. So I think I would have been interested in doing more of it. It's just, I don't know. I didn't have a bike. I was in college. I wasn't going to buy a bike. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well,
definitely something
doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Being like not super experienced on a bike and doing it, that's like why I'm like afraid to do it, is like I feel like I will look so dumb. Like I have no idea what to do with the bike. I would probably not have the right bike. If something went wrong with the bike, I would just be looking around like what, like I don't know what to do. So not seeing that in my future. But because you were a swimmer, I wanted to ask, because the swimming is also something where I'm like kind of scared of like
I mean, yeah, I do think if you have a swimming background, you have a bit of an advantage. Just because I think learning to swim when you're older is just hard. So, I mean, all my friends who do triathlons are like, you gotta do triathlons. So I'm like, I will get there maybe. I gotta not finish, but I want to keep kind of focusing a little bit more on the marathon, and then we'll see.
Yeah, I think, you kind of want to play out this marathon thing because it's so, you probably know from doing it for a while, but it's one of those things when you stop, it's really hard to get that endurance back, which is, I think why runners, we have such a hard time, taking a rest or whatever, because like, once, if you put it down for a while, the comeback is not that it can't be done, but losing cardio is like one of the first things to go. And it's just so tough to get it back. So while you're running strong and running good, you kind of want to like keep going with that momentum. So I totally get that. And I wanted to, even more with your background. So I know that you're the swimmer and you do the running, and you're also, are you a coach at like, are you at a fitness? Do you have a gym? I was trying to figure out what that connection was. And fitness, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay, so I could see why it seems like I have the gym. My sister owns the gym, and I have two sisters, but the three of us are very, very close, and we are all very involved with the gym. So my sister Leah is the owner, but Callie and I, my other sister, were the partners in crime, I guess. So yes, we have a treadmill studio in Maple Lawn in Fulton, Maryland.
Okay.
If it's the only one in Maryland, a lot of people don't even know what a treadmill studio is, but it's like a spin, if you think about spin, but on treadmills.
That's awesome.
So we've got 16 treadmills. And then most of our classes have a portion of strength work. And we've got a full set of dumbbells for that and a couple other different use. But yeah, so we have group fitness classes at the gym where I coach there. And then through I also do like one-on-one coaching for races. And we also run programs, like we're about to start this weekend, our training program for the Baltimore 10 miler. So I have like group runs every week and calls every week and all that. So yeah, lots of different coaching.
That's really cool. How long has the gym been around?
So she opened it in 2021, February 2021. So in the middle of COVID. I'm so proud of her. It's amazing. It's not been easy at all. And already starting a business is not easy, but doing it during that time has not been easy, especially because in the beginning, it was like, hey, if you want to come work out here, you have to wear a mask. Like, it's just wild to think about those times. Actually, before we even had the gym open, we were kind of like practicing and figuring it all out. bringing people to a track. And she had these headphones that were like Bluetooth headphones. And so we would talk in like in a mic, and it would go through the headphones, and the people are running around the track, and we were leading workouts. And we started with that, and that was partly because we didn't have the studio or the treadmills. Everything wasn't ready, but also because it was COVID. So we started doing that kind of to start, but then we opened up in February 2021. So we just had our 3-year anniversary.
That's so cool. I had no idea. Like, I am so glad I asked about this. This is fascinating me because literally I didn't know that it existed. And I think I think it's such a great idea. Like, I've definitely thought of like, wouldn't it be cool to have a scenario where you could coach somebody and talk to them? I was thinking like, if you had a client and you could call them and talk to them through, like, offering that as like, coaching them through a run or whatever, like being there. But that's awesome that you guys figured out a way to do it. Now, did she plan to open the gym and then COVID happened, or did COVID happen and she took advantage of kind of like that opportunity maybe to get like a good price on like space or whatever? Like, was it already in the works?
It was already in the works. Definitely, I like specifically remember it was like Easter, and we were all sitting at the table, and she was like, "I have this crazy idea. I want to open a treadmill studio." And we were just like, "Okay, I don't know what this entails, but yeah, we're in," because that's how we are.
Yeah.
And that was before COVID, so definitely, I don't remember. I want to say probably 2018. Like she had. So, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine there were so many steps that she had to take, and she got rejected for so many loans. I mean, she went to so many banks applying for loans and she just didn't quit until she got one. And then, as you can imagine, I mean, finding the space, buying all the I mean, it was a huge undertaking. So it just so happened that COVID happened during that time, but she is not the kind of person that's going to let something stop her from what she wants to do. So we just kept pushing forward. And, it was during that time, it'd be times where it's like, oh, you can be inside with a mask. Oh, you can't have a mask. Like we were like waiting for all these mandates, and like, it depended on the county you were in. And we're like, what's Howard County saying now? So yeah, I think the mask thing luckily was pretty much done like a month or two in. So we didn't have to have people suffer too long, but we definitely have pictures from the beginning of everybody running in masks, which is crazy. And we were also like spacing them apart. Like, okay, we have a treadmill, you can't be on treadmills side by side. So like instead of 16 treadmills, we can use 8 in a class and things like that. It was kind of crazy. It's crazy when you think about it, but
it is really crazy to think about what a mess it was. But I'm so proud of her too. That's so amazing that she kept going, because I know what it's like to get turned down a million times and having to like pull yourself back up. And I mean, I'm sure all the doubts and everything she had, like, that's so amazing that she was able to get through that. And now you guys have this, like, this opportunity to train people in a way that we don't have that around here. Do you still do the outdoor, like, training with the Bluetooth headsets, or was that not, like, really effective? As effective, I guess.
I know it wasn't that it wasn't effective. It's just kind of hard to, like, I'm sure like find a track that isn't going to have a football game on it when you're supposed to be using it, and just things like that. I think we more just like the studio. We have the music, we have the lights, we have our weights, we have everything we need there. So we've most there, but we do like special events. We have a racing team. Also, anyone can be on it that wants to race. There's no like time qualifications. That was something that was really important to my sister because she sees all these racing teams around that are great, but they're not inclusive. And we're kind of all about inclusivity. So our racing team, anyone can be on it. It's relatively new. We're in an early phase of it, but we do events monthly, and we're going to do an event this month. We're going to go to the track and kind of show our members like how to do a track workout. Here's an example, and kind of walk them through that. So it's more of like a special thing if we do the outdoor.
Now, is your coaching and what you do at the gym, is that your full-time job, or do you do something in addition to that?
No, I wish. That would be the dream. One day, maybe. No, I work in pharmacy insurance. A lot different.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a teacher for 8 years, and then I've had a career change in the last year and a half, and now I work in pharmacy insurance.
All right. So you do that, you train, you work at the fitness studio, and you
Mhm.
said that your next race is going to be New York, you think? Is that going to be the next one? Like marathon. I guess you'll probably do some local things and really just you're training basically for New York. Have you run that before?
No, I'm very excited. It'll be my first time. Yeah, but you get it. Like people ask me that, I'm like, well, that's like the one I'll be focusing on. But yes, there will be races in between, of course. But yeah,
Yeah,
that'll
like
be
that's like your
the
goal
focus.
race. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Well, one because I've heard how great of a race it is, but like I said, I've been chasing a specific time for the past 6 years. So I'm really excited to just go be competitive, run a pace that feels right. There's been races where it's like, I have to hit this pace. It's mile 2 of a marathon. Most people will tell you if it doesn't feel good mile 2 of a marathon, you should probably slow down. But I was chasing this pace, so I was just doing it. And so I'm excited to just go out and do what feels good and be competitive and have a strong finish and all that.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many questions now that you said that, that like just trigger my mind for so many things about how you run and how you deal with like that stress. But I just, with New York, like, have you, I feel like the first thing when people say New York is like, have you wrapped your head around getting to the start line? Because that for me, literally, I mean, as long as I made it to the start line, I was like, the running was the easy part because it actually, it was like such a logistical nightmare to get there.
Yeah. So I haven't thought too much about it because I am hoping that I will be able to run in the either the like the semi elite wave or whatever they call it. So
Yeah.
they'll have the pro field and then they have like a semi elite field, and with that there's some
Okay.
perks.
Perfect.
They put you on
Yeah.
a bus and I think they just take you, as far as I've heard. So I'm kind of just hoping that happens. I haven't. They're not going to tell me until
Yeah.
they kind of see what pros they get and all that. Kind of just hoping, and then if that doesn't happen, then I'll start thinking about it.
You'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So talking about like the pressure to have these certain goal times and stuff like
Mhm.
that, how do you like how much does that get in your head? How much does that affect you like leading up to the race? Like is that something
Mhm.
like is the taper do you enjoy the taper? I'll start there because some people just don't and I am personally like I freaking love the taper.
Same. By the time I get there, I'm like, thank God. And even at that point, I'm like, oh, I have 6 miles. Oh, that's a lot. At that point, I'm just like, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Even like sometimes the makeout run before, and I'm like, why does 3 miles feel so
yeah,
hard? This is a
yeah,
terrible sign.
yeah. No,
But I've heard
I'm
it. Yeah.
ready for the taper when it comes.
Okay. All right. And do you like? Is there a point in time in your training that it really starts to stress you out about like your goals and stuff like that? I mean, does that happen like mid training when you're really in your hard workouts? Does it happen the night before the race? Like, how does that like come up for you?
Um, I think once I start hitting, like when I start hitting these workouts, like, I'm like when I was going from the 240 to the 237, I was like, okay, I mean, it's tough because 237 is really fast. And, but I was like, okay, like this is, in my head, I'm like, okay, this pace is not crazy compared to what I'm doing. So, I'm doing a bunch of long runs with a bunch of marathon pace in it and I'm hitting them and I'm feeling like just practicing a lot and hitting those paces a lot in workouts. I feel like that gives me the confidence. Once I'm like fit and in shape and I'm doing those workouts, there's the confidence. And I'll tell you, when I went into my attempt in 20, wait, what year are we in? 2022, I ran Indy.
Uh-huh.
I felt so confident and it's something I've improved on over the years, but I haven't always been very confident in my abilities. And I would say a lot of times I'm not super confident in my abilities. But when I got to that race, I was like, I'm fit, I'm ready, I'm 235 shape. Like I was so confident, and I got a rough weather day. And I also ended up tearing my plantar fascia during the race,
Oh
which
no.
I actually don't know if it slowed me down. It hurt. I felt a pop at mile 20. I stepped to the side for like 5 seconds, and then aerobically, I felt so good that I was like, "It's fine." And I kept running, and somehow, you know how it is. I don't know. Endorphins. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, So, but I did get hit with like a terrible, terrible headwind the last few miles. It was warmer than it was supposed to be. And I ran a 2:38, and it was hard because I really was confident that day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, the pressure wasn't too bad before. I've practiced it over the years. I've coached others, even my sisters, I'll talk to them and I'm like, worrying and stressing does not help. It is never going to help you. And I know it's easier said than done, but that's kind of what I tell myself. I'm like, why would I got to give myself the best chance I have. And so I'm not going to let doubt and stress kind of mess that up. So I was ready. It didn't work out in
How
my
do you
favor.
not, do you like try to keep yourself extra busy not to stress and worry about it? Or is it pretty easy for you just to be like, I don't know, like mentally in a space where you're not stressed about it?
I think if I have a strong training cycle and I'm hitting workouts like that, I don't think it wasn't hard.
It's not coming. Yeah.
I will say I attempted again in 2023 and things just didn't click as much. Kind of was going through like other life stressors and just things weren't clicking and I didn't feel as fit. So, I mean, the confidence wasn't as much there and I didn't do as well in that attempt. But I think I just try to, I know it sounds like easier said than done, but I think I just am like that worrying's not going to help me. So I might as well be as confident as I can be. And if I go in confident it doesn't happen, I'm going to be sad. If I go in stressed and it doesn't happen, I'm going to be sad. So I might as well just focus the energy on the goal and see what happens.
It's actually a really good point. It's
Yeah.
like super good point. I mean, it sounds like you are pretty cool. Like you're just like, you seem like you have like a really chill like nature about you. How do you deal when you do have like a bad workout or a bad race? Like, how do you process that afterwards? I mean, I can hear it kind of in the stuff that you're saying. Like it sounds like you're really self-aware. You have good self-compassion. You think about like all the factors. Or how would you like coach somebody through like a bad race or a bad workout?
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think, I'm sure and other people who have some experience know that in the beginning, there's this like improving, improving, improving. You're always improving. And even up till, I mean, even, I had a 240 and then I ran a 238. Like, so things were going well. I was hitting paces I wasn't ever hitting before. Like things weren't really hard. And they were hard, but what I mean is I was accomplishing what I was trying to accomplish. So I would say like this past year and like when in 2023 when I ran like a 240 something, it wasn't a good day. That this like I would say that not plateau, but like the trajectory of just like improving, 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 it kind of slowed down after the end of 2022. So I think that's when I started to have to deal with it. So I don't have a ton of experience dealing with it. And I will say that I'm still figuring it out a little bit. I mean, it's definitely one of the most challenging things is, like after a bad workout or a couple of bad workouts, not letting that self-doubt creep in. And so don't think I have developed that quite.
It's
I think I'm
hard.
still learning it. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. You're right. When you are so used to, having those jumps and those achievements and you're PRing and you have maybe not just like one bad workout or one bad race is like one thing. I think you can kind of like get through that. But once you have a couple, it does start to creep in and yeah, I don't know that anybody's figured it out. I hope that like somebody gives us advice at some point, but I think, I mean, part of the reason that I started this podcast and want to do this podcast is because that's where I was in that place where I was like, it's got to be about, eventually it has to be more than about performance and pace. Like eventually, if I'm going to sustain this sport, it's got to be about like more than those achievements. So to that end, like, do you have like, what are some things that you feel like that you value about running that maybe have nothing to do with that?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things. I mean, one, I mean, just from some of the things we talked about, like I connect with so many people through running. I mean, not only like the coaching, but like the people I love. Like I run with my sisters, I run with my girlfriend. Like that's how we spend time together. So and then my friends, like different friend groups. Like I feel like I'm involved, and then we haven't talked about athletes serving athletes, but I'm also involved with that. And so running is just like I'm connected to so many people and so many different groups through running. So like that's huge. Um,
Yeah.
and then I think also just like it's running has been it's consistent. It's been there. If other things change, if I've had big changes in my life, and running has always been there, and it's always been something that I can, go. I can either, go have an easy run with friends. I can go run a really hard workout and kind of get it out that way. I can not think about things. I can think about things. It typically makes me feel confidence, like it's something that I can do that I can feel good about. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's everything. There's a lot.
There's a lot. There's a lot to it. Community is definitely huge. And I can relate to the point where like running's always there when everything else in life is changing. That's
Hmm.
like been the one constant in
Hmm.
my life too. So, I get bored really easily. So my interests are like all over the place. But the one thing that has really just kept my like attention and like passion has been running. So it's like I'm like holding on to it. I'm like,
Hmm.
if you let that go, then you really have no idea what like who you
Yeah.
are, what you're about. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point with athletes serving athletes, I definitely want to talk about that. How long have you been running with them?
I think this is my 8th season, which is
No
kind of
way.
crazy. Yeah. I've been doing it a long time.
That's crazy. I used to run with them. It had to
Oh yeah.
be, I mean, I'm assuming it was before you did because I never saw you
Mm.
like in a race, but I used to when gosh, I can't believe it's been that long because I just signed up with them again this year.
Oh, that's exciting.
And yeah, it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but gosh, if it's
Well,
8 years, I really have missed out.
Well,
Yeah.
how we have so many different like communities in every city and county, and like with races, like you can go to whatever race. So it's possible that we were there at the same time and didn't cross paths, but
So yeah,
um,
yeah, that's true. No, what a great organization though. I actually had Dave on the podcast, I want to say like
yeah,
last year or 2 years ago, and I just loved hearing about that organization and what they do to support their athletes. And I just think it's just such a cool thing. Like I saw them before I joined and started running with them. I saw them out on the race,
hmm
like on a race course. I saw people doing it. And I'm like, oh my God, if they can do that, like I can finish this race. So it's
hmm
like, it's just they're super inspiring to see. And, if people have the opportunity to run with them, I think it's just such a good experience. To add that onto your running.
it's like, what more could you ask for? I get to do the thing I love. I get to help someone who isn't able to run in the like standard way that we all run, and not only the athletes themselves, which I mean, like them crossing the finish line when like it's something everybody should get to experience. Like everyone's cheering their names and they're so happy, and so there's that. There's their families, like their parents who are like, I get an hour to myself. Like I know my kid's taken care of. I know my kid is happy, and I can go do something for myself. I mean, there's so many positive things it brings, and then the community. Like, I mean, people are so many of the athletes and their families are so tight, and they've met through ASA. So it's just again, like, what more could you ask for? You get to run, and you get to help people, and it's just so fulfilling.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think about that, like in terms of the parents and how you're helping them because they have a challenging job. That's when you're supporting an athlete or, a child that has those special needs. I mean, that is a full time thing that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. So the fact that they can feel safe that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, their loved one is having a good time, like
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. I mean, so yeah, that is such a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any iterest in ultra marathons?
I don't think so. I think Ironman would be like the next big move. I think 26 miles is plenty. Um, Props to those people that do it. but I don't think that's. I should never say never, but I'll say trails. I am I'm directionally challenged. So if it's anything, even
Oh
I mean, I
yeah.
know there's like colors that you follow. I mean, hiking. I'm not. I'm just not that kind of girl. And then mix in like maybe I have weak ankles, but I feel like you're twisting your ankle. I don't think that's going to be my thing. Maybe, yeah, I don't think so. But even I know they have like ultras that are not really trail, but I don't know. I think 26 is plenty.
Well, 26 is funny when you're running it as fast as you're running it. I think sometimes the trail runs are for those of us who are like, all right, I'm not about this fast running anymore. How can I do something really, really cool and not run fast?
Yeah,
So
maybe
I feel like
maybe I'll get over some of my fears around it, and maybe, but we'll see.
you never know. You're so
Yeah,
young, like
yeah.
you still have all that time to get faster and stuff. You're not there yet, but I do feel like it's like the progression of like, I don't know, runners who used to be road racers and then it's
Uh-huh.
like I want to be on the trail. It's pretty cool. There's some pretty cool different ways to do running these days
Mhm.
that I now have discovered as like I'm like, what do I do? At this point, because it was like marathon
Mhm.
every like for 12 years, it was like I was doing like 2 marathons a year.
Mhm.
And when I'm like, I don't know if it's not even like, it's not like, I don't know if I could get faster. Maybe I can, but I'm almost at the point like it's not, that's not challenge. It's not that it's not challenging me. It's just not exciting me anymore, that
Mhm.
those goals. So I'm trying to think of other things. And, there are the ultras, the trail runs, but there's so many other things. There are these, I can't remember. Is it like these 24-hour runs or something where you see how many times you can go around
Oh yeah,
like, I forget what they're called, but like there's just so many different ways to run. And for
yeah,
me, that's like exciting. Like that's like you don't ever have to like, you know, give it up. You can find
yeah.
other ways to like challenge yourself. And I see these women and men for that matter, who started later in life, even in their 40s and 50s, and they're now like doing amazing things for their ages,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that to me is really inspiring and gives me a lot of hope, because I think that it is hard when especially with running. Like it was something that I did and it gave me so much self-esteem, and
Mhm.
if you're tying that to performance or whatever, um, you somehow have to, like, I don't know, find other things. And so I think that seeing older people out here and
Mhm.
I don't know, crushing it, it's like it's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Is inspiring people like something that's important to you? Is that part of the reason that you run, do you think?
Um, I've never thought of it as a reason I run, and it never was a reason. But when I hear that I do, it's special. I do try. I like to think that like I liked that I'm like balanced. Like I try, like life is like I keep a balance. Like, yeah, I work really hard and I train really hard and I want to perform and maybe I win the marathon, but then I'm heading to the beer tent and I'm hanging out, and
Yes.
stuff like that. Um, and I just uh, I want to be relatable and I want to be just like a positive uh, yeah, if I can do
Yeah.
that, that's great.
That I love that, because we need that, somebody who is a little bit more balanced and is doing, not not sacrificing the quality of their life to do this, and to
Mhm.
see somebody that is so fast and doing so well, but can also like sit down and have a beer, like,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
whatever. Like
Mhm.
I do think that is an avenue for inspiration, and it's definitely one that's needed, because it can feel like, you have to put all this pressure on yourself to be like perfect in every area of your life in
Mhm.
order to make running like your priority. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say like do you think your reason for running, I think I know the answer to this, but do you think your reason for running has changed since you started? Or do you
Yeah,
think it's still the same?
definitely changed. Definitely started just to stay in shape. And now, I mean, it's so much more. Like I said, I mean, connecting in so many ways in so many areas, and then like kind of how you mentioned too, again, like confidence, and it's just something that I can do. If anything, everything else is going in a direction I don't want it to go, or it's unpredictable, but I know I can go for a run and feel good after. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a lot different now.
Okay. And do you see it changing again in the future?
Yeah, and because I do still, that's all nice and stuff, and it is, but I do still want to perform, and I do still like, I don't want to pretend like I'm not like, focused and trying and working hard and trying to reach certain goals, because I am still there. Um,
Hmm.
but there's been times where I'm like, maybe I'm like, I don't know, done being like this competitive, or,
Hmm.
and I think that's more when things are hard, right
Yep.
now. But then I somehow find it again, and I'm like, okay, no, I'm not done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and also this is something I meant to bring up earlier. Like I've seen, um, I mean, people that have had children come back, but even like pros who, um, and when I say pros, I mean people that I can see on social media. That's like how I know what's going on. But people who either go through an injury and, or even not, just like a bad period, kind of like we talked about, who go through rough races and all that, and then they somehow come back. Like that's really inspiring. And so, I can see it changing one way and going back.
Mm.
We'll see. Um,
Yeah.
but I do know that it'll always be something that I can do with people I love, and something I can, spread joy, and community and all that. So I think that part will always be there. And then we'll see what else.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Do you like what would you say is the hardest thing for you about running?
I think, you kind of touched on this when you do take a break, which is really necessary and important. And then you come back and you feel like, oh, I'm so out of shape. And those first few weeks of workouts or long runs or whatever, and you just feel terrible. And if you're doing it in the summer, even worse. Um, I feel like those, like, it's hard because you can't stay in tip top shape all the time. You just can't. It's not good for you.
Mhm. You can't.
So you have to take that step back. But then sometimes for me, it's like, I'm never going to get back to that.
Mhm.
And I think those first few weeks of like a training cycle, or of just getting back into it, can be really hard to fight through that. And
Yeah.
especially if I'm doing that alone. Like I mentioned, I do have a group, but it's kind of hard for me to get down there for workouts sometimes. So like a lot of workouts are on my own. So I think when you're
Mhm.
going through that and you're by yourself, it's just like a double whammy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because if you're with a training team and you're all training for the same race or whatever, you're kind of all training at the same time, then you're all recovering for the same time, and then you're all coming back at the same time. So you're all
Mm-hmm.
kind of, yeah. But when you're alone, yeah, I can see how that would be like way more difficult for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah. I might make more of an effort to like try to get to those workouts with friends, so that, it is a little less daunting. But
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. Do you enjoy the cold or the warm weather better?
my gosh, cold all day. I'll take 20 degrees. So it's funny.
Oh.
Only in running though. In every other aspect of my life, I'm freezing. I hate it. It's cold. Um, but running, I 20 degrees. It's so funny. We talked really quickly about Boston Marathon, but I mean that weather was rough. But I would take that over the 80-degree day, definitely. Um,
Oh, so over
yeah,
Chicago, so over the
I
2021
just,
Chicago.
yeah, the
Yep.
heat just like the heat just like, I people that run in the heat and they run well in the heat, I'm like, you're a superhero. I can't.
I think. Because getting out the door is so hard for me, I think winter is really hard because I not only don't want to get out the door, but I don't want to be uncomfortable when I go out the door. So
Yeah.
I like summer better. 3 miles in, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like training mentally for me, I'm like, I'd much rather train in the summer because I just hate so much getting out of bed and getting out into the cold weather. But like, do you ever think about the people that travel to races from like Florida or like somewhere
Mm-hmm.
that it's hot all the time and like I'm like they must like be like this is amazing.
Oh
Like
yeah.
this must you know
Oh yeah.
or yeah or like people who I feel like there's always people who are training somewhere super, super flat and then they go to like, Boston or something like that. I'm like, how can you even be prepared for this? This is, you have to run on the hills. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
think when
crazy.
I ran Boston, I had heard so much about how hilly it was, and it is. But living around here, I was like, okay, like, and I got
Yeah.
there, and I was like, okay, like, I mean, it's hilly, but so I can't imagine. I mean, I've heard people who say like they have to drive to find hills to run on, and I
Hmm.
think that's
Hmm.
that's funny.
It's crazy. It is
Yeah.
crazy. And I, again, will say how fortunate I feel that like we ran Baltimore first because I
Hmm.
agree. I think Baltimore is a harder course for sure than Boston.
Yeah. Yeah. I have not
Yeah.
done the full,
But I felt
but
like
yeah, I can imagine.
you haven't done the full Baltimore? You haven't?
No, just a half.
Girl.
Just a
What?
half.
You gotta you'll win it. You gotta do it. Oh my God. I can't believe you haven't done the full.
I know, like I said, I've
That's
just been
crazy.
like I've been picking like the easy courses for years. So now
Yeah.
that, until we'll see if I'm chasing something for 2028. But for now,
Oh,
maybe the time is coming for Baltimore.
that's yeah, you gotta do the full. It's gonna be terrible.
Yeah,
But you
but I
gotta
have to. Yeah.
you got it. Your hometown race.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what inspires you about like other runners?
I think kind of what I touched on before, like the runners that go through what they go through, whether it's injury or just like a rough period, and they come back and they're not only do they come back and work their butt off and get, you know, keep improving, but they're also positive about it. Um,
Mm,
I mean, I again like social media. I don't know if they're positive, but I mean, I've seen enough runners like the ones I look up to who come back from all sorts of injuries or time off and stuff. But also like just my teammates that I've run with too that go through things and have a rough time and they come back with a positive attitude. That's something great, and I want to strive to be more that way.
yeah. So like that, the attitude is like super important. That determination,
Hmm.
the comeback, and just like the overcoming the self doubt type
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah, and just knowing that like it's a long game, and every year can't be your best year. Every race can't be your best race, and just kind of going through a rough patch and just knowing that's part of it and not letting it, you know, I don't know, not letting it stop you from being able to come back and be and have that positive mindset. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And for like the stuff that you're going through and everything, having those role models like that, I think is just going to be like hugely beneficial for you, especially if like you can recognize that's what you appreciate in other people, then you can strive to be like that. It'll definitely
Mm-hmm.
help you going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to ask you if there's anything that you wanted people to know about you that you think people don't know about you. Like, is there anything
Mm,
or
I'm
something that most people don't know about you?
I'm kind of an open book.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a serious thing or like a silly thing.
What?
Probably like a serious thing. I don't really have. Yeah, I don't really have a serious thing unless people. Uh, I feel like people can assume that everything comes easy and that every day I'm positive and ready and uh, I don't know, just that I'm not relatable in that way, and that's not true. I have hard days. I have plenty of hard days. Plenty of times where I was like, "Why am I doing this? I don't want to do this."
Mhm.
Um, and like kind of having to find the why, at least for like the competitive side of it. So maybe that's it. Maybe people think it's easy and I have it all together, but no.
Yeah. That's such a good answer. And that is what, like, we all need to hear, that, like, one, you also struggle to get out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you get out there and it's easy for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you step back, you have to realize that it's all relative, like paces and all that aside. It's hard for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, that's the thing about running that I think is so cool, is that the reason it brings us together is not, that we can run the same pace or anything like that. It's that it's hard and we do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Really. So
yeah. And I think like it's so basic, but Des Linden is like one of my favorite runners to ever exist, and that's why. I mean, and I know, again, it's so basic. Her quote keeps showing up, is so basic, everybody uses it, but it's just like, she is the epitome. First of all, the level that she's been running at for 20 years is insane. But like, she's had so many ups and downs, and you know even still, like, she's not up there in in the top three, or whatever, like she used to be, but like she's still out there grinding. She's still out there coming to Olympic trials and like passing tons of people throughout the race and like having fun. And but again, like, she talks about that all the time. She talks about how she procrastinates her runs until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon sometimes because she doesn't want to go, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's really important to be real about that.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Now, my last question is either for, you can't use the one we just did, either your favorite quote, or, finish the sentence, maybe running will help what?
Sorry, so I can't use the same quote. Okay, well, I think the most basic or the best answer for me is maybe running will help your mood. I think like we touched on it a couple times, but no matter what's going on, I mean, what do they say? You never regret a run. I mean,
yeah,
you feel better after you run. And again, maybe it's an easy run, maybe it's a run with friends, maybe it's something that you need to go out and feel the pain so you don't feel anything else. There's just, but it can make a day better.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be better than if you didn't run regardless. You still may not be like in the best mood or whatever, but it's going to be a lot better than it was if you hadn't gone out.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I learned like so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and tell me about you, because I really have just been like inspired by a distance at what you're doing. And I good best of luck with all that you have going on.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, it was fun.